as we get closer and closer to the deadline of when the buyout is officially finalized, it seems that more and more people have decided to come up with any excuse possible as to sit on their hands and do absolutely nothing. And as me being me, I try to be understanding and sympathetic to people, trying to reason people's actions and choices in life. And as I always say, whatever choices and decisions you make in life, it's going to be up to you to suffer the consequences. But with that being said, I've seen a lot of people comparing things like gas prices and buying gas, phones and stuff like that to the buyout of EA. And on one hand, it's like you can't compare things that you need to survive over things that are just necessities. You need gas to be able to get from point A to point B. You need to travel. You need food in order to survive. There is no negotiation there. You need clothes. Phones are very much useful to get in contact with people who are far away. So when people try to compare two different things, it becomes really hard to define that line of what's actually important. And even though as a community, we can't all be completely pro spenders when it comes to things like we are putting money in people's pockets that don't even deserve it for real, for real. But in order to survive in this world, it's kind of what else choice do you have unless you're going to go hunt for your own clothes and food? And I say this to say that people use that as the main excuse. And when I say people, I'm saying some, not all, but some people use that as the main excuse as to why they don't want to take any action with the whole buyout. And the reason why they don't want to say anything, the reason why they're still continuing to put money into the game and promoting it is because those are very similar, and that's just not the case. For you to compare those two things, it's comparing needing water and food over something like entertainment. For people to compare those two things, it just doesn't make sense. It's not a fair comparison. We don't need entertainment to survive. You know, we can very much live without entertainment, but other stuff like food, water, clothing, shelter, those are things that we just can't simply live without. And even though we can't be 100% pro spenders, we can be smart about how we spend our money and who we decide to put money into people's pockets. I feel like a lot of people, including myself, having this buyout be the final push needed to step away from The Sims, because for me personally, I had one foot in the door and one foot out, and I was really debating if I wanted to leave the Sims community and leave The Sims because that's my ride or die game. I've always said that I will always continue playing that game, and even after the buyout was confirmed, it's become clear to me that regardless if the buyout does go through or not, the game will still be in its current state. Like, I just feel like there's no amount of fixing it, you know? If anything, I feel like this buyout has pushed EA to try to fix whatever's been wrong with their game for years. That was literally it. That was literally the only push needed, considering that a lot of content creators have decided to opt out of the EA Creator Network, and a lot of people choosing to not spend any more money on EA packs and stuff like that. EA needed to do damage control to fix everything. So this was the only reason given for them to actually go in to fix the broken game that has been broken for years now, which is crazy to me that it had to get to this point for them to even remotely try to think of actually trying to fix stuff that's happened in the game. But even if the buyout doesn't go through, it's not the be all end all, you know, like the game will still be in its suffering state. There's still plenty of packs already out that are still very much broken to this day, you know, and we're just now getting more skin tones, more hairstyles, and more hair colors. Like, that's stuff that should have been in the game for a while already. And it's taken 10 plus years for us to get to that point. I really didn't want to bring up the topic of the EA buyout, mainly because there's only so much you can talk about it until people actually realize what's really happening right now. This is not just something that you can just sit there and do nothing. You either choose to stay in the EA Creator Network and continue to fund the game, or you can choose to opt out of it and start branching out into different content other than The Sims. Now, I find it hard to have sympathy for someone who purposefully puts themselves in a box. And let me explain. People who have their channels be centered around a specific niche, such as The Sims 4. If that's the only type of game that they play content, it does make it really hard and tricky to try to branch out, because with the YouTube algorithm, YouTube pushes out videos that you normally post. So if you normally post The Sims 4 content, you know, whether it's building, cast, gameplay, or all three, if that's the stuff that you usually push out, trying to push out something like The Sims 3, The Sims 2, or even something like Minecraft will not get as high as much ratings or views. And I feel like this goes for both small and bigger creators. I do feel like for small creators, when you're just starting out, it's a lot easier to be a little bit more flexible just to see in areas of which you want to do. But I find it hard to have sympathy for people who specifically put themselves in a sticky situation. For me personally, I like discussion. You know, I like talking and having different thoughts and opinions with a lot of different people. And I don't put myself in a specific box. With a lot of my other channels, there's different things that I have included. Now, having something like a niche is nothing wrong, except when it's geared to one specific game, which becomes a problem. Like, you can have a channel full of simulation games, and that can contain a lot of different things. You can play The Sims 1, The Sims 2, The Sims 3, The Sims 4, and other simulation games. But if you're someone who strictly just plays The Sims 4, it's going to be harder to branch out and make further content not revolving around that game. And that's just the game and content that you have been pushing out for years. And on one hand, as always, I understand that it's not easy for people to branch out, regardless if you have a big or small following of people on your channel. It's not easy to branch out from something that you're usually comfortable with making. But in situations like these, where you're so dependent on solely one game, it becomes difficult, because if something were to happen to that game, say for instance, like Minecraft, if something were to go down with Minecraft, you need to always have like a backup plan. You need to have different type of content on your channel, so that way you're not solely reliant on Minecraft. Just in case something happens, you'd have a backup plan. And even though it's such a hard decision, it's not impossible to decide whether you want to continue to stay in the EA Creator Network or wanting to stay partnered with EA even after the buyout. But it's completely hard for me to understand all of these excuses, because at this point, it's just excuses as to why they can't do certain things. It's not even that they can't, it's just they won't, because nothing is impossible. You know, it may be difficult, it may be hard, it may be something that will be harder to get your feet off the ground, but it's not something that is impossible. I'm just going to keep this part very brief and short, but it's very annoying to see people try to make up any kind of story or excuse that they can possibly think of to try to justify their reasons. But it's just how humans are when they know something is not right in their heart, and they decide to come up with any kind of excuse necessary to try to justify their actions or anything like that, saying that, oh, we don't like this, but we're going to continue to do it behind people's backs anyway. It's one thing if you're playing The Sims 4 and you've basically bought all the packs even before the EA buyout. Like, it's like you can still play and enjoy The Sims 4, but to continue to promote new packs and buy packs with your own money, no less, is just showing that, yes, it's very sad and unfortunate what The Sims 4 is going through, but as long as I get my bag one way or another, it doesn't affect me in the slightest. And if you are part of the Sims community, regardless if you play The Sims 4, The Sims 3, The Sims 2, The Sims 1, it does become your responsibility on how you decide to spend your money. Because again, you have things that you need and you have things that you want. You want these new packs, but you don't need them. And you can perfectly survive without them. And trying to justify and make any kind of excuses as to why you want to purchase packs that obviously are not only broken, but they're putting money into people's pockets that don't deserve it. That's where the real issue comes in here, is that we can't be pro spenders 100% of the time, but we can at least be smart spenders when it comes to what we put our money into, what we invest in, doing our own research on what it is we want to spend money on when it comes to things in our everyday life. Even things such as entertainment, you know? It all comes down to who you're willing to put money, because we can be putting money into people's pockets that really doesn't deserve it. But if it's something that really benefits you, such as food, water, clothing, and shelter, what other options do you have, you know? And with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know down below your thoughts and opinions on this situation as well, and what you guys think. This is, again, no way, shape, or form any hatred or any kind of harassment or attack to any content creators out there that still promote and buy into EA or any of its packs and stuff like that. Like, you do you. Whatever you want to do is your decision. But I'm just saying that if you're going to do that, own up to it. Don't try to make excuses. Don't try to justify your reasoning. If this is what you're going to do, just say it flat out. I want to play The Sims. I want to fund The Sims, EA, whatever. Like, just be honest. I just feel like in this community, everybody finds every which way to lie and try to come up with some sort of imaginary story in their head. And it's kind of just like, be honest, be upfront about the situation that is happening right now, and own up to whatever it is you decide to do. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be you that's going to be suffering, nobody else. And that's all I have to say about that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys all in the next video. Bye-bye.